Hello, as promised, put together a little video about the blending mediums we can use with coloured pencils. I've got in front of me some colours on the page, ready to go, ready to blend. And I've also just got some blending pens. These ones are from Derwent. They're fairly inexpensive. I think this pack was definitely under £5. And you just basically pull the lid off and you're ready to go. You can see this one's a little bit discoloured already, but we'll talk to you about that in a minute. Also, I've got Pencil Blend, which is from Zest. It's odourless, well, there's very little smell to it, and it's a nice natural product. I find with a lot of mediums, you have to be really careful about the fumes. If you're like me and you suffer with your sinuses and things affect you really badly in that direction, then Zest is the one to go for, because it is quite a natural product, and it seems to be less smelly than the other ones, shall we say. Okay, I've also got a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and I'll run through that in a bit. I'm not too impressed with using this to blend with, really. Put it in a little jam jar, but it does make it sort of grainy and bitty, and it doesn't really make it nice and smooth, which is what you're aiming for, is to smooth out the bits of colour in between. Just before we go on as well, you can see here that these are my really old Derwents that I've told my pupils about in the past, that I've had for donkey's years, and they're still going strong. But you can see the difference in the application there. This is, I haven't put anything underneath, I've gone straight onto a tablecloth which has got a bit of a grain underneath it, so it's shown through on the paper. And I wanted to do that really so that you can see how it blends out those little white specks in the paper, which is what we expect it to do. But you can already see that it's much smoother with the Derwent than it is with the Arteza. I can't remember whether the Derwents are oil-based or wax-based. I've got a feeling that they're wax-based, but you can see that they're just a finer pigment, and the colours are just a little bit more muted and less in your face. As I say, these are like going on for must be 30 years old, so, and they're still going strong, and I still haven't worn them all out. So let's have a little look at what you can do with them. So I'm going to start with the Zester, and I've got some cotton buds here. You can use any kind of applicator. I mean, I do say on the bottle, use the brush, a stump, or a tortillon, or you can use it with makeup applicators as well. But I've got some cotton buds to try out with. I'm hoping I've got enough. So the best thing to do is to tip it into a little pot, just so you don't discolour your whole bottle, but I'm just going to dip in with one end, and I'm going to start with the ultramarine on the Arteza up here at the top, and just gently move it across. You can see that you can rub it around, but also you can blend it out as well. So that's the idea of it, really, is to get rid of, it's like putting a ground down. So for instance, we were doing the leaf, we would put the solid colour down, and then we would build back up on top of that. So that's the idea behind it. I'm just going to dip it in again, and I'm going to try again with that yellow, because colours behave differently. See if I can get away with it. You can see, because it's lighter, it does sort of feed into the paper. I'm expecting that to disappear and dry out and become just normal white paper again. Some of them do leave an oily residue, but I've not noticed that with this one. We will wait and see. I think you can see on that it's already drying up. I'm just going to dip the other end of this in and just finally go for this one here, the red. So what you would do, more on there, what you would do is you would put down this as a base, and then build up over the top with the detail Okay, so there we go. That you can see that you can drag it out as well. You can drag the colour a little bit further and make it a little bit more subtle. So perhaps if you were doing something like a sky, you could, you know, soften some edges with the Blend It as well. Let's have another look at up here with the leaf. This is with the Zest It as well. So a little bit on there, and I'm not rubbing it over the lines, I'm rubbing it within so that we can sort of see how we can get rid of all of those little bits of white in there. You see that works quite well. Any sort of build up areas where there's, you know, a clump of colour, if you like, you can rub it in, so you can get a much smoother colour than it was before. I think that works quite nicely actually. So let's move on to the Derwent and see what we get with the Derwent. So I'm just going to start with the ultramarine. So again, you can see how it's smoothed out, but also it's rubbed away some areas. So, you know, it's good for creating a wash underneath really, but not really for, you know, for making it, for softening what you've already done, if you like. If you've got a complete drawing, you wouldn't put this over the top. You would make sure this was like your first layer. Okay, so I'm going to do the yellow now on the other side of the cotton bud. Trying to be quite frugal with the cotton buds. I think that works quite nicely there. It's blended quite well. And then you can see the difference as well in how the colour travels. There's much more colour in the Derwents than there is in the Arteta, but that's not to say that the Arteta aren't a really good starting place, because they are quite a good starting kit, which is why I've led this class with those colours, because you can achieve an awful lot with a cheap brand, as well as if it's your thing, then you can invest and then go further with something else. I'm going to just use the other side. It's got a bit green on this, but I'm just going to use the other side of it to blend up this red here. So you can see there's quite a lot of colour with these, quite a lot of colour difference in the pencils, but you know, that's not really what we're looking at the moment. We're just looking at what happens with the colours and how we blend it. And I'm just going to come up here and blend this leaf, and you can see that it's quite a lot of, it's not very even, so you know, you can move it around a little bit. So again, you can see that that's gone quite smooth. There's still a few clumpy bits on that. It's the difference between the colours. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I've got two gradients here where I've blended in blue to green. I'm trying to pick the similar colours so we get a better idea of what, you know, what will happen. I'm just going to blend those two together. You see the colour does run out an awful lot on the Arteta. I'm expecting it to be a little bit different on this one, because it was a lot more difficult to blend. Not difficult, but it was you had to work a little bit harder on the blend on this one. With the softer pencil crayons, you do. There we are. So you can see that there's a difference really in the colours. But you can also see how you can get blends. So if you were perhaps doing an ocean, you could blend underneath your colours. And also as well, it's important to say that this is just normal cartridge paper. It's not, you know, a proper paper that you would buy if you're completing a masterpiece and you wanted to do it. If you wanted to, you know, really go for it and pencil crayons are your thing, and then I don't tell you to invest in a proper paper really, which this isn't. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid back on the Zester, And I'm going to have a look at the pens now. So with the pack that you get 2 different thicknesses of pens. This is a thin and a thick one. To be honest, you can get most places with that tip on that thick one, and I do find that's a better pen. It seems to hold the solution a lot better than it does with the smaller pen. There's a bit of a smell to them. It's sort of like an alcohol-y smell, but it's not too bad. I'm going to try with a thick one and show you anyway. You can get a little bit more control over it. The only thing with these is they will run out quite quickly, so you know it's not whereas you get a massive bottle of Zest and the pencil blend, you literally only get a pen, so that's, you know, reflected in the price, I feel. Okay, so there you go. So you can see how that's much more controlled really than using the Zest. So perhaps for smaller areas, this is the kind of pen you want. And the other thing you have to remember is when you've done this, you know, you will get a tip that's full of blue, so you kind of have to wipe it off on the side until it's gone. Okay, before you go on to your next bit. Still might go a bit glued, let's wait and see. So again, that's made it really smooth. I mean, that's one of the things about these pens is they do make it really smooth. And you can start to see now that the differences, I mean, that each colour is different. Every colour has a different consistency. So you can see that, you know, different blends are more successful. The blue is more successful in Odessa with the Zest, and it's more successful in the red with the Derwent. So it does depend on what colours you're using, what brand of pencils you're using and everything else, but it's not an exact science, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what you can achieve with blending your first layer, if you like. So here we go with the red. Again, it's quite nice and neat. I think that's more to do with the control. Give them a nib and wipe. Let's go over here and try the ultramarine on the Derwent. So again, that's really nice and smooth as well. And of course as well, if you've got a sharp edge, you won't lose your sharp edge by using these, where you might with the cotton buds or your applicator or a brush, you might just get a fuzzy edge, whereas I feel like you get a much stronger edge with these ones. Just going to give it a wipe to get rid of all that blue. Okay, here goes the yellow. Okay, so you can see that's worked quite nice as well. Wipe off the yellow from that and we'll go on to do the red. Okay, so now we've done that, I'm just going to have a look at the leaf and then I'm going to do the blend as well. So like I said, I'm using the thicker pen here, but you can just keep going until you've got what you want, and because it is a pen, you can control the edges an awful lot easier. Let's do this little wipe. Let's do the one over here now. So there's a nice crisp edge to it, there's no fuzzy edges, which might be, you know, you want to blend something that has got a crisp edge but you want the middle to be blended, so that's a nice option really with this pen. I mean, it is impressive, like I say, you know, you won't get an awful lot out of it in terms of the mileage that you get as opposed to the Zest, but it's a nice alternative. Okay, so I'm going to blend over here now like we did before, the blue to the green. And because it's, you know, quite a slow blend and you're rubbing it in quite slowly, I feel like it's not washing away the colour so much as the Zest it was. And certainly with the Derwent, I feel like that's a much more successful blend. In fact, in both of those, it's much more successful blend. But it does have a slight smell to it, so there's either or really with either of those products. So, as I said, I think this one is about, I think it's about £12 to £15. I'm not sure completely. You can get it from Jackson's and places like that. And these ones, I think I picked them up from Smith's, and they were certainly under £5. So I'm sure you could get them even cheaper if you search online. And you know, they are a great place to start if you think you want to blend. And for going on from here, you would put your detail over your leaves and things like that, so that you would you know, build up from that background, but it makes a nice smooth background to build up from. So that's all I'm going to do on blending. Like I say, we've got some alcohol here. Actually, no, let's just go over the alcohol. So I'm going to just put, this is with the Arteza pencil. I'll just show you really quickly what I mean by the alcohol and why I'm not impressed with it. So there's a block of blue like we had before. I'm just going to use the other side of this cotton bud. And what it tends to do is move it around in clumps. Doesn't tend to give you an all over finish. And also as well, what it tends to do is, you can't see from the film probably, but it does tend to sort of rub the surface away a little bit. You can see that it's starting to lift the surface a little bit. It's probably because it's deteriorating it. So that might be better on a different paper. Certainly for me with the smell, because it, you know, it does give off some fumes. It's not the thing I want to be doing. But if you've got alcohol in your house, I'm not suggesting you use your best gin, but you know, if you've got some rubbing alcohol or something like that, it might be the thing you could try to see if it's a thing that you like to do, to get that sort of smooth underpainting to your pencil drawings. And I'll upload this video and I'll talk to you more in class.